Well, hello there. How might you be doing today? Thanks for tuning into another episode of the Crash Bang Boom podcast. Today's guest is drummer Nick Yacyshyn of Sumac, Baptists Erosion, and is now featured on the new Genghis Tron record. Nick did a little double dipping and got to talk about said Genghis Tron record and the process that went into recording it. Revisiting the Baptist records with Kurt Ballou, Vistalite dorkouts, vintage drum nerdouts, as well as tension rod bukakis, i.e. 4 too many lugs, and a whole lot more. So I hope y'all dig it. Crash Bang Boom podcast can be found on iTunes Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Luminary, Google Play, Podbean, and Amazon Music Podcast, and more. Feel free to check out any of the previous 200 plus episodes. Give me a like and or a subscription or a positive review. And if you're interested in more of the specifics behind the Sumac recordings, etc., as well as how Nick got into drums, check out episodes 103 quite some time ago, 2.5 years plus, where I talked to Nick previously, and you'll get some of that info. Crash Bang Boom podcast can be found on iTunes Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Luminary, Google Play, Podbean, and Amazon Music Podcast. Feel free to check out any of the 200 plus episodes and give me a like, a subscription, and or a positive review. Support is appreciated. Shout out to my sponsor, New Orleans Record Press. If you're looking to release some vinyl, hit them up at neworleansrecordpress.com, where you can check out all the electroplating, mastering, design, packaging, vinyl coloring options, and more. And they even have a real-time quote generator to keep tabs on it all. They also print 12 and 7-inch records in 150 and 180 gram variants, and they do small runs of 100 and larger runs up into the thousands. So hit them up, and that's neworleansrecordpress.com. Lastly, please keep tabs on artist live streams, lessons, tutorials, and masterclasses from your favorite musicians, merch or physical releases that are for sale, as well as websites like SaveOurStages.com that are looking to assist in these tough times. So here we go. Let's do it. Nick Yacyshyn, Part 2. Sounds Japanese, but isn't somehow. He is, however, a drum ninja, if that counts for anything. Crash, bang, boom.
Crowds go mad with joy.
Yeah! Nick Yacyshyn, what's happening for the second time? A little bit of a different world in which we find ourselves, but how the hell might you be doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Nice to hear you.
Yeah, as well as you, man. You know, last time we talked, it was a lot about the origins of you picking up the instrument. We talked a good bit about AC/DC and how that inspired you to pick it up in the first place. And, of course, Ian Pace and Ludwig drums and Sumac's writing process, the intensity of Baptist sets. We hit on a lot of stuff. And for those of you listening to this that want to check that talk out, that was episode 103, which was 2.5 years ago. But I tell you what, man, you needn't look beyond how it was a different world at that time, more so than the fact that I met you and we did both the interview in person and we met at a club where you were playing a real live show, which was with Sumac at the time. So slightly different world now, no, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. I can't believe that was 2.5 years ago. That's kind of wild.
Absolutely, man. At that time, obviously, you were on a little run with Sumac. We met up at St. Vitus. As far as how 2020 panned out, did you have some recording or touring plans that have been disrupted and or postponed and conversely, I guess I could say, were there any opportunities that presented themselves that you might not have otherwise had?
Yeah, there's a couple things that got, canceled or postponed as such, but still got to work on a bunch of music, or I have been, at least when I get the motivation to leave the house, Yeah. There's always stuff to do, which is nice, like even if it's just working on my own stuff by myself.
Mm-hmm.
No complaints, I guess, in terms of just like I have a roof over my head. I'm, fortunate enough not to be put out, except for not, living my whatever daydream of a touring lifestyle. It's been like, it's like, could be a lot worse.
Yeah. What is your setup for practicing? Do you get to practice? Did you have to leave the house to go to a practice space to practice, or do you have kind of like a home studio setup, or like what's your setup for all this?
Well, just some friends and I share a jam space. Just this nice room in this spot that we've been there for like the last 10 years, and that's where my drums and everything are. So
Gotcha.
When I want to go play music, yeah, it's like it's close. It's like a 10-minute bike ride or a 10-minute drive. So it's nice and close. I just have all my drums in there and all my guitar stuff. And so yeah, if it's drumming time, I just head on down there for a few hours, usually at night, and there's nobody down there.
Nice. One of the things that I've been asking drummers a good bit throughout this whole time is whether or not there's been any particular practice regimen or any particular things in general, drumming, chops, whatever it is, rudiments, fundamentals, time, any of that stuff that maybe you might have postponed previously, but now with maybe a little extra time on your hands, literally, you've found that maybe you were working on some of that stuff or anything like that?
Oh God, I wish I was that guy. No, not at all.
That's hilarious.
Honestly, aside from working on the Genghis Tron stuff earlier like early last year when that was starting to get going, I've only played drums like a handful of times.
Wow.
Since the summertime.
Yeah.
Yeah, and usually like in the last few months, I've just been kind of demoing songs, and when I do play the drums, it's kind of just to like lay down a skeleton of a song for them, and I don't really pay attention to what I'm playing. So I haven't been a very like drummer's drummer this year or ever.
That's wild, man.
But yeah, I mean, there's stuff like I think about all the time, and I think that's where I do a lot of my like, if you could call that like work. But I think I get my like drumming priorities and musical priorities. Like I think about that stuff constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I do sit down, I can kind of focus on that, and I have a direction, which is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to work on like playing the most brutal shit I could the other night, and just went down to the space, and it was just like 4 hours of blasting as fast as I could and just going for it. So just like I'll kind of have specific goals like that to work on stuff. But yeah, if I had drums at home, I think that would be a different story.
Yes. I was just telling you earlier before we hit the record button, I now find myself in a situation for the first time in about 15 years, basically since I moved to New York, where I have a kit in the house that I can play. So I've been able to do that, and that has been awesome to just dedicate an hour, just walk downstairs, have a few ideas, start working on stuff, and being able to pace yourself in that way is far more conducive to actually developing some of that stuff. Like I was saying that I've been kind of postponing and just sort of, mapping it out and saying, I'll work on a little bit of this and taking my time and not feeling stressed. Like I just rode my bike in a brutal ass winter to get to a practice space, and I have a 45-minute window, and then my shit didn't set up and I got to set it up, and now I got 20 minutes, it's just by the time you get to doing all that, it could be stressful, Yeah.
There's like a weird pressure that you put on yourself to be productive or to like not focus on the wrong shit, or you want to spend your time like 100% correctly. And then for me, I know that just makes me like waste my time worrying about shit.
Right.
But that's sick. You have that setup, man. That is so cool.
It's been awesome, man. You mentioned Genghis Tron. Congrats on the one song that I've heard. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more of what is happening on that record. Obviously, Board Up the House, super cool record. The one prior to that as well, and super interesting sequencing of drums and having been sort of messing around with electronic music as of late. More so, I guess, maybe in the last 3-4 years, I've started to use it kind of as a tool to sort of reverse engineer my own drum parts and write something that I might not sort of instinctively play, and then sort of figure out the mechanics of executing that. So I think that is interesting that you play in a band where historically, thus far, it's been sequence drums, and then here you are, a live drummer on this record with them and in a really cool band. So I guess tell me a little bit about just how that even came to be and when y'all started working on it, and sort of how that process worked. Because I know you're in Canada, and I guess some of the other guys are in New York. I want to say, like, where was everybody?
Yeah, I mean, it was I think those two guys, like Hamilton and Michael, through Kurt Ballou, I think, got in touch with me because they were just writing this record, I think, for like a long time. And at least like throwing ideas back and forth for a long time. And they had just said that they had wanted to try a live human drummer. And so they hit me up, and they they sent me some demos, and I mean, I'm not totally familiar with their past records, but like I know what their band sounds like, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh fuck, like I don't know if I want to do another like heavy thing or whatever it is. Sometimes you can hold your ideas too close or like hold on too tight to like, oh, but if I'm giving my like all my heavy ideas to this other heavy band, what if by the time I want to do something in my own band, I'll be ripping myself off from, you know, it's just like so much bullshit goes into making creative decisions.
Right.
I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this could be cool, but like I don't know if it's going to be heavy or not. But from the first demo, instantly I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this sounds fucking cool. This is not what I thought it was going to sound like.
Nice. And there were sequenced drums on all the demos they sent you?
Yeah, I think they had the God City drum sounds or whatever. It sounded like really good. Like the demo sounded sick.
Nice.
And they had drums like mapped out, and they had some specific ideas, and they had some, you know, they had some more open areas, and it was cool, man. We just kind of like dialed in the songs remotely. This is like pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So we were actually going to meet up and work on stuff for a weekend, and we had plane tickets and everything bought, and I was scheduled for sometime in March.
Wow.
And then obviously, yeah, it was like right at the last minute. I think it was like a couple weeks before I was supposed to get on a plane. It was just like all the traveling and shit got shut down. So
wow.
I've had to learn how to at least crudely record myself.
Yeah.
And then like send them my drum tracks, and then they would dump the drum tracks into their existing demos. And it was just like months of doing that and like kind of dissecting the songs and the forms and stuff, and making notes and stuff and doing shit that I've never done before.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've never ever had to approach stuff like that. So it was really cool, like, learning experience in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we just traded ideas, kept in contact, and eventually, like, because I was supposed to go record my drums at God City, and then we ended up, a friend of mine, JJ Heath, works at Rain City Studios in Vancouver, and they have just like a killer room there and a great setup, and JJ's a drummer himself, and I mean, I've known him since I was like 18 or something.
Wow.
So it's just like a good working relationship, and he's done demos for other bands I'm in, and if the whole kind of setup changed, it was the best case scenario to do like an alternative recording approach. It was pretty fun, actually.
Damn, man. As of yet, have the four of you, and to my understanding, the Genghis Tron also has like a new vocalist. Have the four of y'all gotten together and been able to play music at all yet?
No, hell no.
Wow.
I've never met those guys.
Wow.
So we're never planning to like play this live. You know, it's just like, let's make a record.
Mm-hmm.
And as a drummer, when you hear that, it's like, well, okay, well, what if we have to at some point play this live? I don't want to like fuck myself with just doing like crazy bullshit all the time.
Right.
But it was cool to do like, you know, like, here's the normal drums for this song.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's like overdubs for this part. Here's, you know, a whole other thing for this part, and just like approaching it, like piecing it together like I've never got to do on a record before.
Yeah.
So almost, I think every song has at least two drum tracks going more or less at the same time, with me playing, and then there's like electronic elements as well.
Right. Wow. I know it's hard to be objective about it now, even though that y'all were working on this for quite some time, but when given the sort of piecemeal nature and the puzzle-like nature of piecing this whole record together, when you listen to it, do you feel as though that there's continuity? Does it sound like a band to you, so to speak? Because I know, like with the Baptist recordings, for instance, in Sumac and stuff like that it has a very much of a band feel. But like, for instance, not knowing the behind the scenes of how this was pieced together, when I heard that song, I thought it sounded like a band. I thought it sounded really good.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I think it sounds like a band to me, for sure. Yeah, I don't think that anything was presented in a way that you wouldn't relate to being just like four people playing music together.
Right.
There's this freedom to do cool shit. And, you know, it was like all I was listening to, well, not all I was listening to, but like I was listening to a lot of fucking Phil Collins and like Tears for Fears.
Awesome.
And I was just like, holy fuck. This is my one chance to be like Manny Elias or be Phil Collins. And here are the hugest toms you've ever heard going into this chorus or whatever it might be. You know, it's just like, it was cool as a drummer to just geek out and get this huge drum sounds and just Vistalites everywhere. It's super rad.
Vistalites everywhere, man. I feel like we might have touched on it the last time we spoke, but they could be problematic, especially the earlier 70s ones. Sometimes you get some strange tonality issues under close mic'd situations, as is the case, you know, in being in a studio. But I guess tell me a little bit about the kit that you had set up. From the picture that I saw, it looked like an amalgamation of your smoke Vistalite and your clear Vistalite, sort of stretched out like it was just a giant kit, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I have a bunch of just different sizes for, you know, I have my like one bank of smoke shells, and then I have my other bank of clear shells. Yeah. And I've, you know, exercised a little self-control in just buying sweet sizes when they become available. I usually use the same shit for like Sumac and Baptist, but for this, I was like, I want to do big fills, and I need more toms. So I just pieced together with what I have. Awesome. And yes, it was like it was 3 up, but it went 13, 13, 14, and then the floor toms were 18 and 20.
Whoa.
Yeah, originally I was doing 13, 14, 15 up top, but just the extra, because the 15 is 12 inches deep and the 14 is only 10, and that extra like couple inches, it just I wasn't like, it wasn't as sweet like as when I did the slightly smaller toms up there. But I don't have a 12, so I just used
2 13s.
Yeah, I just used like a concert tom for the first 13, and I cranked it to like almost like where my snare was in tension. Wow. Yeah, so the first tom is that open bottom 13, and then it's just like 13, 14, 18, 20, and then 24, and then I used my like 14, 6.5 copper phonic. Nice. Yeah, it was very fun to play that.
That is so cool. I'm really anxious to hear the whole record in its entirety now, sort of hearing once again the process of piecing all this together. Of course, having Kurt Ballou, who you worked with so many of your projects, and then of course this kit set up and everything sort of here in the background on that. It makes me that much more anxious to actually hear this thing. So that's super cool, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's cool. I also had like a mirror image of the tom setup on the other side of the studio for like concert tom overdubs only. Wow. And it was or I guess it was a little different, but I think it was 12, 13, 14, 16, 18, and they were just open bottom 70s Ludwigs. Wow. That the studio has and that JJ owns. And yeah, that was pretty satisfying doing some overdubs on those things.
Oh man, that is too cool. Well, you mentioned, obviously we're talking here about Vistalites. I probably should go ahead and tell you the story about what happened to my pre-75 Vistalites that got shipped out here to Salt Lake City from Brooklyn. So I had 2 full kits, 3 cymbal cases, hardware bag, 9 snare drums, all sent out here. Thankfully, all the snares showed up. In particular, I have 2 76 Supraphonics. So I was thankfully those showed up. And actually, since talking to you, I was like, you know what? I need to get an Acrolite. And I bought an Acrolite. I think it was from either late 70s or early 80s or something like that. It had the original snares on the bottom, which I had never even seen before. I can dig those up and send you a picture of them. But and I think the original head, it was like the drum had never been touched. I don't know if it sat underneath somebody's bed, but I just bought it from this guy off Craigslist. And immediately, without tuning it at all, I recorded it on a record recently, and it sounded amazing. And it was a real thin head, like a Ludwig Rocker's head or something like that, single ply, and it didn't last long. But for that little moment in time, that damn snare did really sound amazing. And I still have it. I played it earlier today. I was like, damn, this thing sounds killer. But
Fuck yeah.
so the clear Vistalite, same that you have. Mine's pre-75 because I know that the 12-inch tom has smaller lugs than the 13 and the 16 and basically the rest of the kit. So the bass drum showed up, and the bass drum sounds great. I'm glad that the bass drum at least showed up, but none of my toms did. They lost them.
Oh, oh, dude.
Yeah, I lost them. 12, 13, and 16 gone in hard cases. So I had to put a claim on them, and I was like, I don't know if y'all know anything about vintage drums, but if I was ever to resell this, which I am very unlikely to do, but the serial numbers need to match, and I can have this isolated bass drum, but now the toms that were the original part of this original kit that somebody's had since the early 70s, they're gone. So like I feel like I just have to get an entirely new kit, and there is one that I found, so that's what I sent them for reference, and it ain't as cheap as when I got it 15 years ago. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
I think Vistalites in particular have gotten more expensive. Maybe I don't know if it was in the last decade or so. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, yeah. First of all, sorry to hear that. That totally sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah.
But no, I was actually talking to a friend of mine this afternoon who has Vistalites. Actually, you know what? The conversation I'm thinking of is a friend who doesn't have Vistalites. He has recording customs.
Okay.
His name's Mads, and he plays in Halshug from Denmark, Copenhagen.
Okay.
We were just talking about how like Ludwigs over there are like twice as expensive as they are here.
Right.
And that like when I got my clear Vistalite kit, I mean, granted, aside from the floor tom and the 13-inch tom, so I guess the 15 and the 24, they've been kind of butchered a little bit. So I got that for $800. Those four Vistalites, and it's a 24 and 15, 18, like massive
wow.
shit. So, and then when I got my smoke kit, it was 14, 18, 24, and like kind of like mint fucking drums, and those are $800.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was I got my clears in 2010, I think, and then the smokes I got in 2015.
Damn.
My shit's always been kind of somebody's drilled in. There's holes in it. Somebody made it into a floor tom at some point, and now just holes. Like a lot of my stuff is like that. Like my clear 15 has Rogers lugs. Because it was a concert tom, and I guess whoever converted it into a tom only had Rogers lugs. Yeah, so
yeah.
But it kind of sucks. I was hoping that they were like the same hole spacing as like a large classic Ludwig lug, but they are not.
Oh damn!
They're just different enough that I couldn't replace the lugs. Anyway, it still looks cool, but
yeah.
I think vintage drums. Before I worked at Rufus Drum Shop where I work now. Mm-hmm. I didn't really know much about drumming outside of my immediate like taste and bubble, and like on a need to know basis, like I wasn't searching out a lot of stuff, and then so I kind of have only a 6-year like knowledge of the business of drums and how that goes, aside from buying stuff just on my own and getting to what I thought were just crazy deals on shit.
Right.
But I think vintage drums are just popular as hell these days, and some companies at least are valuing that themselves and kind of like focusing on that for their new stuff, and that's pretty cool. Right. You must follow all the Instagram drum shops.
Oh yeah, you do too. Every time I go to like it, I'm like, you've already liked it.
Dude, yeah. It's just like our buddies just tag each other and send each other all the shit like that Hawthorne and those guys get in the States. Totally. It's just eye candy, man. It's just like if you could find a new rap you never heard of. Totally. Like every week, you just get your mind blown. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's funny when the last time I spoke to you again 2.5 years ago, you mentioned that you worked at Rufus Drum Shop, and at the time I wasn't familiar with it, but now more recently, since I've been talking to drum manufacturers, and more recently I even put out an episode with Hawthorne Drum Shop and Chris Hawthorne. I've been paying more attention to some of these vintage drum shops, and I hear you, man. It's unbelievable to see some of these kits, and it was crazy talking to Chris because I was not familiar with some of these more obscure Japanese brands that were put out in the 70s, et cetera. And it was cool talking to him about it. And I definitely plan going forward. Maybe I can even talk to somebody up at Rufus about some of the kits that have come through and some of that stuff, because it's definitely become far more of an interest, to the extent that I absolutely know about your drum shop now, because I follow all these drum shops on Instagram now.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's cool shit, man. Very, very cool to just be in that world and getting that stuff coming in. It's exciting as a drum guy.
Right, absolutely, man. Since all this went down, have you collected any other vintage stuff, or have you been just pretty much sitting on your go-to Ludwig stuff with your Vistalite kits and the snares that have been the go-tos for you?
Yeah, like I guess last year maybe I got a kit rewrapped by a guy named Jeff Woods, who's a drum builder in town.
Nice.
And so I have like a wood kit for the first time in like a decade. I have like a set of wood drums, which is cool.
Nice.
And that's what I used on the last Sumac full length.
Okay.
And it's like a 70s, early 70s 3-ply clear interior.
Awesome.
24. And then I think they're 80s. They could be 90s, but the huge, heavy fucking like 10-ply or whatever maple shells that Ludwig did. And they have like the tom is 14 by 13, and I think it has 12 lugs. It could be 10 lugs, but it's like covered in lugs. It's just lugs. So, I'm like, oh, this is going to be cool. I'll be able to really tune this. And it's like, have you ever tuned a drum with that many lugs?
No, it makes it more complicated.
Yeah, it sucks. It's fucking terrible. So I use that for like one show and one studio session. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to find a new rack tom.
Totally.
That has like, an appropriate amount of lugs. But yeah, so I have that kit going. My buddy Leon found, because we talk about snares and shit and what we're after, and I was mentioning that I was looking for a Coliseum, like a slotted Coliseum snare, and he found one for me. So it's like one of the 2015 reissues. I think it's 12 lug. Again, fuck. God damn it. But it's it's like the 14 by 8 slotted Coliseum. So that thing's like
nice.
Super loud. I haven't had a chance to really mess with it much. I ordered one of those new acro brass snares.
Oh, cool.
So I'm stoked for that to come in, because I've been wanting a brass snare for a couple of years, and I was considering the raw brass because I really like those ones.
Oh yeah.
But then the acro brass came out. I was like, oh fuck, like how am I not getting this? But it's got the lugs on it. It looks so cool.
Totally.
So, yeah, I'm psyched to get that in.
Yeah, 5 of my 9 snares are brass snares. So.
Whoa. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I'm a fan of brass. Needless to say.
There it is.
Yeah.
What do you got, Black Beauties and stuff, or what's in the collection?
Dude, I wish I did, man. I would love, that's definitely one of them. And I love the bell brass, some of those brass, even the more modern one that like Gretsch put out. Obviously the Tama ones are hard to come by, but I actually went for like some of the older Pearl. I have a Pearl brass free floater, probably from the 90s, and then I have the Sensitone Elite brass with black nickel finish, which is sort of what I call the poor man's Black Beauty, in that it does have a seam. It's not a seamless brass shell, but I tell you what, man, those snares are killer. And I even have one of the old Gene Krupa Radio King Slingerland snares, and that's chrome over brass. You could get those for fairly inexpensive, but it's a really cool sounding one. And I've got some other ones in there, and like I said, I've got my couple of Supraphonics, and then my Acrolite and this and that and the other. So I've got in fact, the picture that I send you, I got all my snares behind my kit now. So I got my snare wall, which is fucking killer.
Oh, killer. That sounds rad. Dude, those fucking Pearl snares are so sick. The free floating snares and stuff? I don't think I don't know if I've played a Sensitone, but I imagine it rules.
Yeah, the Sensitone ones are really good, and an interesting one in particular, I think the Sensitone Elite, that's like I said, sort of the black nickel over brass. Those seem to be really cool, and they have new versions of them. I got like the older versions of them because they have the thicker lugs on them, and I thought that would just make that much more of a solid sound. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't played the newer ones. I just was like, I'm going for the older ones. So yeah, I've got a little collection happening, man. I'll have to send you a pic for sure so you can scope it out.
You just see these snares, these damn snares.
I know, man.
It's like, how the fuck do you not buy that shit? It's hard sometimes. I feel like no matter what I get, I'll get down to the jam space and it's like, okay, it's copper time or it's like one of the acrylites. Like I feel like I have like 12 snares and I use 2, which is, it's like that's how it goes with anything. You get your go-tos and you just use that stuff.
Absolutely.
But I love to have just cool like voices because every time I go to the jam space, I set up something different. Like I rarely use the same setup when I go down to play drums.
That's cool.
Like I'll like just add like crazy toms or 2 bass drums or only a couple cymbals or set up everything I got. There's something to be said for that. Just having those options if you have the space and the means to do that.
Totally.
It's pretty beneficial, I think, for the old brain. And you just get new ideas all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've joked about it before in the podcast. I've went through what I've considered my midlife snare crisis, and I sold like 7 of them, and then I was like, I just need 3 go-to snares. And then like within a year, I had bought 6 more. So I bought back, like, I was just like, I can't have just 3 fucking snares. That's ridiculous. I can't.
Yeah.
Apparently, I thought I could, and apparently I can't do that.
Right. Yeah, it's okay. It's a process, man. We'll get there. It's the same with like records and stuff. Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's just like there's always something, or there's like you wanna support stuff that's coming out. It's like, of course, I'm gonna buy that record.
Right.
And then you like, I gotta get rid of some of this shit. I like have a pile that's like, okay, I'm gonna donate this to some of the local record stores or whatever.
Right.
And then the stack on my speakers is like taller than the pile. I'm like, oh shit. Fuck.
Oh, that's funny, man. You mentioned Tears for Fears and Phil Collins. That Tears for Fears songs from the Big Chair record is fucking absurdly good. But are there any other records that you kind of got obsessed with over the last year or so, where you just listen to the hell out of it?
Oh man, I find I listen to the most music when I'm at work, and we just I don't have a Spotify account, so I just use YouTube at work. Whatever, like the YouTube algorithms for just like lining up shit that you want to hear is uncanny. Like you can just like scroll down that sidebar and it's like, oh yeah, like there's the album art. You see it, you're like, I've been meaning to check this out. I know this is like, wow, YouTube, but it is cool. Like it's a super good place to just like keep listening to tunes at the shop, because that's when I find that I like listen to the most music.
Right on. I did want to ask you about, in talking about Kurt Ballou, as far as like modern heavy records, I've often said that he is the producer, engineer, mixer, whatever you want to call it, that he was attributed or accredited with. Of those modern recordings, the Kurt Ballou productions are the ones that I have the most of on vinyl than any other producer. It's bizarre, man. I mean, from Baptist Records to Converge to Trap Them, and I could just keep on going. It's interesting that his productions are something that I just absolutely gravitate towards. And I was gonna say, in having revisited some of those Baptist records, because like I said, I have them on vinyl. I think that those in particular, of all the stuff that he's done, has a great balance of being super raw and super big. And I think somewhere that is a hard balance to strike, but he totally captures that on those Baptist records. So I was curious if, in listening back to them, you have what your sense of them are.
Shit, yeah, no, I agree with everything you just said there about old Kurt. He's really got the touch, that's for damn sure.
Yeah.
And can really mic a set of drums.
Yes, he can. The
drums are just punishing on all his records, and it's hard to not be psyched as a drummer when you listen to a lot of that stuff. And no, man, I don't listen to the Baptist stuff like regularly. I'll listen to like, it's nice to go back and like, and kind of be like, oh yeah, this is all new to us at this point. Like we were a new band.
Yeah.
And we don't know these people. Like, we don't belong here. We're at fucking Kurt Ballou's studio, and it was just like a total blur, and it was really fun. And I love how those records sound, and the drums sound kind of different on all three. And I think they all have their own place, and I think they all sound perfect for the record they're on. In my opinion, like, I'm happy with all the drum sounds. Obviously, you would change little things about anything that you've done when you listen back. You know, even if it's the day after the mix was finalized, you still want to change shit, and you'll never escape that, which is cool. But no, it was all those where did Kurt have them? The Tempest, the fiberglass. That was the God City kit that, like, feel like you can hear that on from a certain point, like almost every recording, if not right from the beginning. But that, like, red sparkle Tempest kit. And those things just sound fucking brutal and they're so deep. Like, I guess it's just a tom. The kick drum, they use like I don't know if it was recording custom or if it was like, I think it's maybe pre-recording custom Yamaha 24 by 14.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the kick drum I used on all the albums because he didn't have a Tempest kick. But those toms, it was like there's a bunch of rack toms and stuff, but I just used the 14 by 14 floor tom and the 18 by 18, so it's like extra deep floor tom.
Right.
And they're just devastating. And I think I used it might have been one he made, or I think it was one he made. It was a titanium 14 by 7 snare on the first two. Yeah. On the first two, and then I used my copper one on the copper phonic on Beacon of Faith.
Shit sounds good.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. And listening back, it's just like exciting to hear that shit, and just kind of it takes you back to that moment in time.
Right.
Doing those Baptist records with the guys in Baptist, you couldn't have more fun in your life. Those guys are just the best. We just all hang out together at all times and just try to make each other laugh every single second. Like, that's the only priority. It's so fun doing that shit.
Nice.
I think we tracked all the albums in the first two. I think we tracked everything in 4 days, maybe. And then mixed in 2 days. And
wow.
Beacon of Faith, we might have had an extra day or something in there, but it's just watching your bandmates just kill it, just fucking haul ass. It's so exciting because you have no time. You barely know the songs. It's really hard to do physically.
Yeah.
And you just get in there and get in a room and just do it. And then Andrew did the vocals for Beacon of Faith in 3 hours. Just back to back. He had all the lyrics on sheets of paper and just on the ground, and then he would just look at one of them at a time and just scream his ass off. And he sings in perfect time. You don't have to nudge any of his vocals. He's just locked in with me, and it's, as a drummer, just sitting back watching him do that shit, you're like, God damn.
That's awesome.
How the fuck are you doing this? Right through the whole album, front to back, and then...
Amazing, man. You know, the last time we spoke, I don't think I even asked you about your work with the Armed, but haven't seen them live. I actually saw them at St. Vitus. Tell me a little bit about, I guess, how you hooked up with them, because it's an interesting band in that the guy who plays the drums live, I'm spacing on his name, is the guy who sings on the records, to my understanding, but on the records he gets guest drummers, of which you were one, as was Ben Kohler, as was Chris Penny. So tell me a little bit about, I guess, you hooking up with them in that experience, because I don't believe I asked you about it the last time.
Oh, yeah. That was another Kurt hookup.
Exactly.
They're a pretty ambiguous band, so they sent me demos, same sort of thing. I would just play drums and figure out the demos, and I can't take a lot of creative credit for that album. I basically played those demos verbatim.
Wow.
The drums were programmed so fucking cool. All the ideas were crazy, and I was just laughing at all of it. And I just did my best to do exactly that, because I wasn't, it's sure, I could have taken some creative liberties or whatever. No, I'm playing drums, I decide. But the drummer who's going to play on the record, but he broke his hand. It wasn't like he chose not to play on the record. So
Oh, wow.
it's like, if these are your ideas, then I'm here to serve your music, you know? So here's your I'm going to do your ideas to the best of my ability.
Right.
And so you get the result, hopefully, that you were after.
Yeah.
Even if you're like writing ideas and you share them with your buddies, and then you have certain ideas in your head, and the littlest thing has changed, it could mean like a big deal to you that nobody else would know about, because you have, you know, this riff set up with this little thing. And if that's not the same momentum or whatever it is, then that part can lose some of its luster for the person who's put the time into making the song.
Right.
It's so important to kind of see that through first before anything's changed, I think, in a lot of context, not in every context, but
Sure.
Especially for that style of record where it's like, it's just controlled chaos for almost the entire thing.
Oh, yeah.
And the drums were like really hard. I was like, I said yes. Can I fucking play the first song?
Dude, I was going to ask you about the opening song, because it sounds like Chris Penny plays on that. That is you, right?
Yeah. And it was. I mean, I think it's a Chris Penny impression.
Yeah.
From their point of view, and it certainly was from mine. I was like, holy fuck! Like, I couldn't play this when I was like, 17. How am I going to play it when I'm 30 or whatever?
Right.
But yeah, it was nerve-wracking because you're in the booth, all eyes on you, and you're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm like, I hope my fucking leg can go this fast. But yeah, it was a cool experience, man. I don't know exactly what the armed is.
You recorded with them and you don't even know. Imagine how ambiguous and bizarre it is for me as a spectator.
Dude, there was this guy. I'm not trying to like call out this guy. I don't even remember what it was called, but there was like a reaction video to the armed video that came out today.
Oh, really?
Dude, it was just so funny. People talking about music on the internet. But
right.
like, it's just like, okay, this band is like gone out of their way to be like really ambiguous and artsy, and everything they do is almost a reinvention of what they've done before, and it's really cool. They're just moving forward and trying new shit at all times. And the guy's literally watching and talking over the whole thing, and it's his first time watching it, and he's just like, I don't understand. I don't get this. It's like, you aren't even paying attention to it, and like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, right. Has anyone done a reaction video for any of your drumming performances?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay, there we go. It's probably coming at some point. Get ready for it, man. They're going to be fucking pontificating bullshit about what it is that they read into your playing. So get ready.
Cool, yeah, I'm totally ready.
Oh my God, man. Well, are there any plans for 2021, man? I know everything is so tentative right now. I mean, the best case scenario, people are hoping, and their tour plans for, I've been seeing maybe late September, October, maybe. Do you have anything on the books that you're looking forward to potentially?
No.
You're like, I've got shit going on. I'm going to be working at the drum shop, man. Come see me.
I mean, yeah, it's like, I would love to be thinking about that, but honestly, I think when everything shut down at the end of February or March or whenever that was, I kind of just like, as a coping mechanism, I just like completely shut that off and was like, okay, don't ever expect to be able to do this again the same way that you've been doing it. And
right.
And shut the fuck up and just don't worry about it so much. Like, instantly my brain just did that. And so
yeah.
I would love to look into 2021 and be like, okay, I want to like start getting like tours going and lined up so that when we can do this stuff again, then I'll have something to do. But
yeah,
I don't know. I see bands, and it's like, I don't know what's going to happen, and nobody does.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, we could book something and maybe it'll happen, but I'd rather just wait until there's the next phase of stuff is in at least like happening, where there's, say everyone's already got their second vaccine dose, and it's months after that, and like, what are shows even gonna look like?
Right. I know, man.
Because it's a weird thing. It's like you're kind of just used to playing, and at least like the level that my bands are at, you're in a room, and sometimes there can be like in a bigger room with a lot of people there, but for the most part, you're kind of like face to face with like a couple hundred people.
Right.
And there's this thing that happens there where it's just unfiltered energy, and that powers what the performance is.
Totally.
And I don't think anybody that I'm involved with would do this, but there's 10 people here, like half-ass it at a gig, like no way.
Yeah.
There could be one person there, and you're still gonna lose your fucking mind.
Sure.
There's no dialing it in with the type of music that we play. Like you can't achieve it if you're not like sprinting at full speed the whole time. But I just wonder, like at a show, if there's like if there's like you have to have space in between everybody or whatever it is. Not saying that that's like a bad idea. Like I'm open. I think that's cool. Like do it when it's safe and get people, because there's other types of music in different cultures that rely on different kind of show environments. But for the stuff that I'm in personally, I think it's like it might be a while before that's going to be a fun and fulfilling thing again. So I personally haven't been in a rush to like start booking stuff or even thinking about it.
Right. I hear you, man.
Yeah.
I certainly look forward to a time at some point in time where there could be some physical shows, and my God, people are going to have some steam to blow off when it happens, man. My God.
Yeah, for real.
The band's included, everyone. It's going to be a massive cathartic collective experience of epic proportions.
Yeah, I think so. I can't wait, man. I'm looking forward to just seeing shows in town, and just because there's a lot of people that you see only at shows.
Totally.
And you're friends, but like there's no other like link in your life maybe where you're going to see these people unless you're at a show every week or whatever it is. So yeah, that shit's awesome, and it's definitely missed.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to get back to it. I'm just trying not to get ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Set myself up for failure and doing all this extra work for no reason. Yeah.
I hear you, man. I hear you, dude. Well, Nick, it was great catching up with you again, man. I appreciate the time. Definitely looking forward to this Genghis Tron record and hearing your presence on it. And I always enjoy your playing and your mini projects. So it'll be a good time will be had. I'll be cranking it on the fucking stereo.
Right on, Jody. Thanks for having me again, and congrats on your move and all that stuff. That's really cool. So play drums every day for me.
Absolutely, I will. Right on, Nick. We'll talk soon, man.
Right on, buddy.
All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in to the second installment of this interview with Nick. Super cool talking to him and catching up about this new Genghis Tron record that I'm very much looking forward to. Always dig his playing, always dig his projects. Always good to talk to him. Hope y'all enjoyed it. We'll catch you on the next one. Crash, bang, boom.